Hello everyone, and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be sharing my sketchbook with all of you. So lie down or sit down, relax, and enjoy this tour through my artwork. So the first thing we're going to begin with are these few pieces. Some of them are taken out of this sketchbook, and some are from a smaller sketchbook, as you can see. So these current pieces are a bit more complete, I'd say. So I wanted to share these first. So this one, this is in watercolor. I really love how free watercolor is, how it sort of has its own life when you're painting with it. And my reference here was a photo, I believe, from the 60s or 70s. Just an era that I find very visually interesting in art, in music, and in fashion. So this is my first painting. All of these paintings that I'm going to show you in this pile are available on my Etsy, the original artwork, so these exact pages. And my Etsy shop is ArtbyEmersonRain. So moving on to the next painting. So this one is very bleak. These are kind of like a set when they have a similar color palette, although this one's a bit more vibrant. But this was taken from a reference that I found on Pinterest. I absolutely loved the photo, so it inspired me to paint this piece. It's inspired by this original photo. This is also done in watercolor, so it's the same medium as this one here, and I really enjoyed painting this one too. I find it interesting to paint on a smaller canvas. It kind of challenges you to see how the entire painting works on its own without small details. So, to the next finished piece here. This one I called Mud because it is a painting of, well, I guess an interpretation of Twiggy, a model from the 60s. And I absolutely love the photographs that were taken of her, the very stylistic makeup. She has a very distinctive face, and her eyes are very beautiful. I decided to have a bit of creative freedom with the colors, and I found this really interesting. To paint, I decided to go with cool colors in the forefront and warm at the back, with some warm on the lighter parts of the skin. This painting was done in gouache, so similar to watercolor but a bit more opaque. Then let's move on to this one. This one was also painted in gouache, and this is a painting of a beauty queen after her victory, I guess. And I don't know, I had this fascination recently with the very interesting aesthetic of pageants, but a specific kind of pageant aesthetic, like almost a pageant grunge. And I saved some pictures, found some inspiration, and I finally came up with this piece. It almost has an overlap with sort of Midwest grunge, kind of Midwest Gothic aesthetic, or Southern Gothic. And I found this one really fun to paint. I was very free with the colors. I made it very vibrant. I like to do that at times, make it sort of bleak or sad subjects very vibrant in color. I think it makes it all the more confronting. So, on to the next painting, which is this one. And I love this one. I really like the composition and how it turned out. I love how this arm goes into here, which goes into here, which goes into her leg. Yes, I really love painting the human form, the face. So interesting what you can do with it. So versatile. And I really enjoyed the colors of this one too. And making these sort of yellow highlights. I thought it made it look really interesting. And this one also has sort of a grungy aesthetic to it, which I really enjoy. Yeah, so if you're interested in purchasing one of these paintings, they are available. So you can just go to the link in my description or search Art by Emerson Rain on Etsy. And now, on to the real thing, the sketchbook itself. So I've forgotten a lot of what's in here. It's, I think, a universal artist's experience to forget what they've made until they look at it again. Every time I open a sketchbook, it feels like the first time that I've looked at it. So this will probably be as new for me as it is for you. You work on so many projects, it's hard to keep track of all the things that you've done. So let's begin. Okay, so the first thing is sort of academic. I took a course this year, the beginning of this year, with a fantastic artist, and she suggested starting from the beginning with the basics, mastering how light falls on shapes. This was my first attempt at these shapes, drawing from life. So center this so it wouldn't be the other page. Perfect. Okay. So there's a few of these. This one I went a bit darker with the shading, but I noticed I was relying a bit too much on these lines. So these lines were my weakness. Relying on lines when in reality no lines exist. So that was my project to work on. And I started to get rid of the lines. And as you can see, it's much softer on these pages. My interpretation of these shapes. There's no line, it's just light and shadow, which is what I was working towards. So this was sort of the beginning of those lessons of refining my skills. And I find it really important for us as artists to go over the basics every now and then. I think these are the foundations of everything. These shapes are in the face, they're in nature, they are in architecture, and it really helps to just go back and review the basics. So here's one more of these. I made a bit of a larger one this time. And there's the beginning of a sketch that I made of my boyfriend. And it's very incomplete, but I think that I did some more. As you'll see, I feel that every time I sketch the same reference or the same subject, I tend to get better at it. So let's go to the next page. Here I was working more on the light and the shadow. This is also my boyfriend's face. He is in here a lot, so I find that he has a beautiful nose to draw. I tell him he looks like a classical painting, so I love to draw him. He is my favorite subject. So I was working on his face here. Here we have some more shapes. And more of his face. I really love this one. I love how the eyes turned out, the eyelashes. I love the darkness of the beard that just blends into the shadow here. I think it came out really gorgeous. And I should paint this someday in the future. I love this shadow of the nose, by the eye. Yeah, I really like how this one turned out. So this was kind of moving on from the basics and going a little bit further, but still working on the basics of the face and the light and shadow and how it hits it. This one, I think I struggled with this side. Shadow was kind of difficult because a lot was obscured by it, but it's good to practice these things. As you know, if you're an artist yourself, nothing in here is going to be perfect. It's a sketchbook, so it's a place to make mistakes. Some of these things, you know, I feel embarrassed about because they don't look as good as my finished work, but that's the process. And like some people say, that the eyes are the window to the soul. The sketchbook is the window to the artist's soul. So let's continue. This next page. Okay, so these are more drawings of my boyfriend, and I love this one. I'm currently working on a painting with this reference, and I think I sketched it better than I did in here. So I think I definitely have improved since I originally drew this, and I'm proud of myself for that. And here I have another portrait of my boyfriend, and it looks beautiful and peaceful here. Once again, I love the shadow casting on one side of the face. And yes, your beard into here. It's very seamless. I was really starting to learn how to play with shadow when I was working on this. I was becoming a lot more confident. Here, I have a self-portrait, and these portraits, I guess I had a lot of graphite on them that was unblended because they seem to have transferred on each other, but that's okay. They weren't paintings that I was going to sell, drawings I was going to sell, I guess. So they were just practice. So here's a self-portrait, and a lovely portrait on the right of this model that I found on Pinterest. I thought she had such a beautiful face and long neck, and I love that she had her head shaved as well. It's a really interesting piece to see how the light hit the head, and yeah, these gorgeous dark eyes. Yeah, it's really a beautiful portrait. Here, I find a lot of fault in this one. Not one of my best works, but a good practice. This was Rosé from Blackpink. Some of the features are recognizable, but I think I didn't quite capture her likeness and the proper shadow, the proper form. I think this one could do with a redo. But then on the right, I really do like this one. This is a drawing. If you know him, comment below, and I will love you. This is Juan Manuel Serrat. I grew up listening to him. My mother is Spanish. He is a Spanish singer from the 1960s, 70s. I think he still sings to this day. Oh, he's quite old now. And he sang such beautiful songs. He wrote his songs and they are like poetry. He was someone who believed in peace and justice. He was both a poet, a musician, and an activist. An incredible artist for his time. He is Catalan. He sang in both Catalan and Spanish. So, big fan of this artist. And I like how my drawing turned out of him. Then, a typical coffee stain, as can be seen in many artist sketchbooks. This one, I feel as though the shadow is very nice, but the form I struggled with on this one. A lot of these are just models I found on Pinterest because I wanted to draw different faces with diverse features. So I would sort of pick some features that I found very interesting. Like this girl had a really beautiful nose that had this curve and very full lips. So now these were practices given by my art teacher. So these were sort of, I guess you call it homework to work on. This was copying from a reference of some drawings of an artist whose name I cannot currently remember, but he was very famous and I should remember it. Nevertheless, I found these really fun to work on and very challenging at the same time. I think I have some more. Yeah. So, I think this was my first attempt at this one, but I do another one in a few pages. I did this one, I remember my teacher critiqued it, and suggested that it was almost there, so we should start over. And I think there's no shame in starting over. I think a lot of people feel the pressure to get things right the first time. It's okay. You don't need to do that. There's nothing wrong with turning a blank page and starting a new drawing, starting a new painting. If you're not satisfied with it, you know, this is your story that you want to tell. This is your skill. And it's your choice what you put out to the world. So, and there's also this sort of figure drawing, I guess. This was a drawing of a statue. Yeah, more homework here from the same artist. And this was my second attempt, and I think this one came out so beautiful. I was really proud of myself. I didn't overdo the shadow. I think I really had a lot of conviction really proud of myself for drawing this one. And it's making me want to draw again. Because often, you know, when you get caught up with finishing paintings, big projects, it's easy to forget to go back to your sketchbook, just open it up, do some drawing, some pencil drawing, and it helps so much with refining skill. And yeah, this has inspired me as well, just going through the sketchbook. Here's more homework. I'm happy with how this one turned out too. I think I didn't quite complete it, but I really like what I did with it. It almost seems like I was more detailed in the shadow than in the light, which gives it an interesting look. So, I like it. There's just some attempts, I guess, that never really turned into something. Then here's some sketches. Sometimes I love to just get a bunch of photos from my Pinterest, some things that I find visually interesting, and I just draw a bunch of them. I just sketch all of them on a couple pages and just see how it turns out. And sometimes I'll take one of these small sketches and I'll turn them into a bigger project. That's how one of these paintings from the beginning happened. So I think I've taken some things from here. This one I have mixed feelings about. I think the model is very pretty, but I think the shading needs a bit of softening. I got some graphite transfer on the other side. Oh, hands, the bane of every artist's existence. Yeah, I found this one interesting to work on. It's just a practice. But yeah, I think hands really elevate a work of art. When you have a portrait, I feel like when you involve the hands, it makes it suddenly all the more complex and gives a very recognizable human quality to it. I think it's so interesting to be able to paint something so complex, almost as complex as a face, depending on how close or far away it is. Yes, I love adding hands into my works, even though hands are extremely difficult. Just another photo that I found on Instagram that I found really visually interesting that I wanted to sketch. More coffee stains, as you can see. And these are more Blackpink members. Shout out in the comments if you are also a Blink and you love Blackpink's music. They're currently on tour and I wish that I could see them. But alas, maybe next time. But yeah, this is Lisa and Rose. Just practices and some cute photos I found of them. And then this one's a bit more of like a, I guess, light and shadow practice. So, I really love the lips in this one. Now we have some paintings. So, then I got comfortable enough with drawing these new techniques that I learned in my class. I decided to go ahead and begin painting. So I started applying this technique that I learned, these many techniques that I learned from this wonderful teacher, to paint. And I used wash paint primarily. So here painted. Very much Van Gogh inspired. I love these little flecks of yellow here. Yeah, this was something I was really proud of when I first painted it, and yeah, I continue to be. I love it. And here, I was working some more on this, then going to a human. So I don't remember exactly why I painted him green, but it's interesting. Nevertheless, it's very Hulk-like. But I like this shadow of the mouth and the highlight right there. Just this little highlight. And then how it fades. I like the hand also. The muscle of the arm. Yeah. This was a good practice. Here's another painting practice of the hand. So I was trying to apply these techniques in paint to a hand and still life object. So I found like this sort of wooden cup on Pinterest, and I don't know, I just thought it looked really cool. I hadn't seen like a lot of wooden mugs, I guess. Maybe they're more common than I think. But I haven't encountered one myself in real life. So when I saw this picture, I thought, wow, that'd be really interesting to draw. The way the light hits it, the way the shadows form. And then the hand that was holding it was also very interesting. So yeah, I like the blue here. It's really cool. Okay, I love this. I love painting teeth. I think teeth are a very visceral thing for people to be confronted with in art or in literature. I think it's something that reminds us of pain, of our humanity, and our mortality. It's also somewhat confronting. It's somewhat aggressive. And it's a very jarring image, which can be very powerful when used in art, or at times even using the word teeth in poetry really is evocative. So I enjoyed painting this one. These are not my own teeth, but I did find them. I don't remember where. Then some ballerinas from Pinterest. Not really complete drawings, but just sort of sketches of the shape. Her spine really wasn't that pronounced, but I found the shape very interesting. I have graphite on my hands already. And I just really wanted to emphasize it and kind of play with that that shape there. So on to the next. So this is special. So this was, I guess, a grade or some notes, some advice from my teacher. And she was telling me sort of to blend the shadow kind of into one tone or few tones. And I'm almost at it, I guess. I just needed to kind of darken this side and this side, and there should have been a bit of lightness right here and here. That was just what I was missing. But regardless, I like how this one turned out. It was a good practice. It was just in black and white. Just study, I guess you could call it. Yeah, I like this one, even though it's very incomplete, but there's something about certain sketches that just sort of speak to you, you know. I love the hands. The hands are really interesting to me. I think I might have purposely drawn them a bit bigger and a bit longer. I sort of agree with Van Gogh about sacrificing sometimes perfect form for expression. I think it's much more interesting to sacrifice at times like something looking exactly like reality to look. I think it sometimes looks even more realistic when it's not quite realistic, but when it is more evocative of the emotion or the experience you feel looking at something, because that really can't be said in a photograph. So we have this freedom in art where we can kind of exaggerate or work with color, work with a shadow that might not be something in real life, but it's more like real life because we're really expressing the experience of seeing it, not just how it looks. That's my rant over. Here's just another study. This was of an arrowhead, and I did a larger painting of it in oil paint in black and white, but I think I finished it early during class and I just did a really quick sketch of the head from another angle. I think the angle that I painted it at was more head on, and then this one was, yeah, sort of from the right. Okay, here's some more practices. This one has some interesting lighting in it, and yeah, it's not my most complete sketch of a face, but I love the way the light hits her face. She has such a beautiful face as well, such unusual eyes, the lips. I remember my teacher told me that she looked kind of like a mermaid, and I agree. So I like to draw unique looking people. Then here on the side I have some figure drawing practice as well, and I really love drawing like this upper part of the chest highlighted because I love the way the shadows fall on the ribs and it goes down. Like, I really like this curve from this muscle in the shoulder that goes into the chest. Oh, it sort of creates, even when the arm is lifted, it kind of creates even more an exaggerated curve. This line is really interesting, and yeah, I just think the human form is such a beautiful thing to paint and to draw. You have another face. I think this looks so cute. I feel like her mouth is kind of like tilted to one side because she's leaning her hand against her face. And this one is so simple, but it's one that I really liked how it turned out, and I ended up doing an oil pastel painting, I guess, drawing of this particular reference as another practice in another sketchbook, which maybe I'll show one day. Here's some more practices. This one's my face, actually, and I think this one was Kate Moss, but I struggled a bit with the shadows on it. And then this one is from Les Mis. I've seen a lot of people draw this one. I think it called a lot of artists because of how visually interesting it looked. So that was kind of cool. This is Giselle, this supermodel. Gorgeous. I like the face. It's so small, yet I like how it turned out. And hand, just a simple old hand. some more practice. Yeah, I really like this one. I love that shadow from the mouth. I mean, it's like almost a bit Joker-like. Yeah, I love the cheekbone, the way the shadow falls under the eye. Here, let's just some more figure drawing practice. I like how the legs turned out for sure. And yeah, some more figure drawing practice from a back perspective. And then I love this one. Yeah, I really like how this one turned out. And I believe this is the actress Chloe, and I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name. Sevigny? You'll probably correct me. But yeah, I think she has such an interesting face, and I loved this picture of her, so I thought, what a cool thing to draw. Another really interesting picture I found online. Yeah, I love how I just kind of let the tank top almost like graphic. Like it almost looks like a cartoon, I guess, on her. And yeah, I just love the way you can see kind of the anatomy of the chest with the shadow. It just looks bleak. It looks very, you know, dark, grungy, and really visually interesting. The cigarette and stuff and the hands. I didn't really go into detail with them, but I like the shape. Sort of the claw kind of like shape that they're in. Here's Volodymyr Zelensky. Big fan. Slava Ukraini. Then this is sort of a practice for, I guess, landscape painting. I did this in gouache as well. And the last painting was also in gouache. I think all of the paintings that are in this sketchbook are in gouache. I don't think I did any watercolor or acrylic in here. Now this one was unfinished, but I really like how it was turning out. Especially this one. I love this shadow that goes in. It just like totally erases half of the face. My teacher really liked it too. She liked how kind of extreme I went with this erasure of the shadow. Because that's something that she really admired and that she taught in her artwork, sort of leaving shadow empty. Of course, it doesn't need to be this empty, but the exaggeration makes for an interesting contrast to the rest of the face. Here's some more practices. The faces, an old friend. Yes, I think this was when we had a live model, and I had already painted her, and I think I did a sketch of her first, and I finished early, so I decided to do another really quick sketch. And here are some thumbnails for, yeah, so this one was for the live model, and then this one was for a painting that I later worked on. And some more sketches. I love how this one turned out. The shadow is really soft and effective. Yeah. So this was, I didn't paint this, I drew this at the academy where I was art modeling. I also work as an art model. And I had, I guess, a really long lunch break that day. So I had already finished my lunch, and they had this beautiful statue in there. And I decided, well, I have time, and I have my sketchbook here, so I might as well sit down and do a sketch. And I did. And yeah, it was just very inspiring. I love to work as an art model. really inspires me to draw more, to paint more. I learn a lot from looking at other people painting, their process, and I love seeing how people interpret me, how they paint me. And I'm also just good at sitting still for a long time. I can get lost in my thoughts forever. As a writer, you know, I could just sit and plan stories, poems, playing with words in my head, and I'd never get tired of it. So, it makes me a good art model, I suppose. Here's some more practices. I think I did this on a study break while I was working on my thesis. And this one is the original sketch from the painting that I showed. So, you can compare the two. Clearly, I really liked the image because I drew it twice. Oh, I loved this one. I loved this girl's eyes, her eye makeup, the lack of eyebrows. I know that's coming into style now in fashion. The lack of, or the bleached eyebrows. And I think I've always been interested by it. I think it just completely changes the face, makes it look so unique. And it draws attention even more to the eyes. And I love this hand. I love the way her hand was across her face. So I decided I would paint it. Draw it. I should paint it though. Then here's another beautiful model that I drew. I found on Instagram. Not on Instagram. On Pinterest. And this big empty shadow on the side of her face was what drew me to it. I thought it'd be a great practice. Just leaving that shadow completely empty and just focusing in on this portion, just the details of her face. And here I was just doing a simple sketch of a model, so the shadow was hitting her. Also from Pinterest. So this one is the original sketch of I guess it's my biggest work to date. It turned out to be a very large oil painting, and it was my first really big project, like a really big, fully complete painting, and done in oil. I only learned how to use oil paints this year in this class I was telling you about. And this was my first really big piece that I worked on by myself, with some feedback, but you know, not during class. And yeah, it's so interesting seeing the idea, you know, before it became what it currently is. If you want to check out some of my more complete art, you can go on my art Instagram, ArtbyEmersonRain, and you can check out some of my bigger paintings and stuff like that, if you like my sketches, I guess. This is Lalo Salamanca, so if you are a fan of Better Call Saul, shout out in the comments. I just loved the shadow of the shot, and I thought I have to draw him. He's such an interesting character. I think he has a very interesting face, and the actor who plays him, Tony Dalton, is so expressive in his portrayal, and I just thought he'd be a really interesting subject. Then these are some practices of some fashion models. This face is not it, honey, but she is not complete. But some of the face, I think this face looks really pretty. I think I haven't really gotten to her yet. There's not much detail in her or her, except for the legs, which was, I think, why I ended up painting her. Because I love these shorts and the way they're kind of very, I guess, geometric, triangle. her legs are so long. I love these shadows on her legs, the highlights, and I loved this model's dress. Her skin tone is so pretty. I love these little highlights on her eyes, nose, and mouth, and she just looks like she's from another era. So I thought she'd be so interesting to paint. This model, I loved the dress, but clearly I didn't get very far in it because it's not very detailed yet. And let's see, I don't know if this might be the last one, and it is. So we have come to the end of my sketchbook until I decide to fill it with more work. So I hope that you had a nice, relaxing time. Let me know what your favorite piece was, your favorite page. Let me know if you'd like me to make some more videos like this. I would like to do a sort of sit down and sketch with me, relaxing ASMR video. And yeah, make sure you like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and you'd like some more. And that's all. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this has been calming for you.